So the video you're about to watch is a video of a class I call professional grant writing. This particular video that you're about to watch now was done about 10 years ago, maybe more. As you know, for those that follow me, we have a much more updated class, 2024. But I just want to go back to this class to show that, in essence, when it comes to the heart of grant writing, in terms of the different components of that grant, remains true. It remains true today, and it remains true 25 years ago. No, 2010. I think it was 10 years I did this. 10 years, maybe more, but I know at least 10 years. But anyway, let's get started. I'm Michael Randolph. I'm the CEO of the Center for Nonprofit and Community Development, and we were created to service you, to service your particular needs, and we can tailor our program to meet your need. We're looking forward to doing business with you so that you can serve your clients more effectively. Thank you. Hello, my name is Michael Randolph, and welcome to today's session on an overview of professional grant writing. I'm with the Center for Nonprofit and Community Development. Our mission is to provide innovative, practical, top quality products and services that save time and improve the way nonprofits operate. We strengthen organizations that strengthen communities. Okay, let's talk about how do we do this in terms of the services that we provide. What do our services include? Well, first, we work with nonprofits in doing business plans. We also work with nonprofits in terms of doing grants. We work with nonprofits that want to do government procurement, organizational development, and also we work with nonprofits that want to do 501c3 preparation. And as you see, I'm only highlighting only those things that I want to emphasize in red. When you look at the blue, you also see the other services that we provide as well. So, again, my name is Michael Randolph, and I've been doing this for 20 years. Let me give just a little bit of more information about me.
Michael Randolph was born and raised in the poverty-stricken Sandtown community of Baltimore. Mr. Randolph has specialized in community strategic comprehensive planning for distressed communities for over 20 years. Mr. Randolph's first introduction to community building was in the early 1980s, where Michael Randolph was hired and assumed the position of community organizer. From there, Michael Randolph advanced to community strategist, program developer, designing comprehensive solutions to urban distressed neighborhoods.
So, now that you know about me, let's talk about what our goals and objectives are and what you should know by the end of this presentation. You should be able to talk about the different types of grants, the different types of grantors, how to search for money, to have an idea of the fundamentals of writing a grant and a proposal, and to be able to describe the concept paper and letter of intent. And you should also be able to identify different grant terms and plan your next step. Okay, good. Welcome back. Let's talk now about the different types of grants. The first type of grant is what's known as unrestricted grant. And this type of grant, you can pretty much do what you want to do with this grant. For example, I give your organization $100,000 to provide services to youth. I don't say what age group, what color, nothing. I just say provide services to youth. This is unrestricted because you can basically do it for what you can use it for what you want to do as long as you use it for your purpose. The most likely type of grant, however, is what's known as a restricted grant. Same scenario, I give you $100,000, but this time I say to you, you can only use it for youth between the ages of 7 to 14. Again, it's what's known as a restricted grant, and you cannot use it for anybody other than the age group that we have already outlined in the grant. The next type of grant is what's known as seed money. And seed money is used for new organizations just getting started. Normally, for seed money, the first person that you want to bring on board is the executive director. The next type of grant is what's known as a capital grant. And a capital grant is like when you want to buy a building, if you're doing affordable homes and you want to build houses for folks, or if you want to buy a piece of land. And then we have an endowment. And an endowment is normally mostly for colleges and universities, but I listed here just to make sure that you understand all of the different types of grants. Then we have what's known as a challenge grant. Again, go back to the $100,000 that the organization gave you, that you needed. But this time the organization say to you that even though you want $100,000, we're going to give you $80,000, and we will give you a challenge to go and get the remaining $20,000 to make it $100,000. The challenge grant is when, for example, you need $100,000 and you submit a proposal and you say we need $100,000. And I say to you, we will give you $80,000, but you have to come up with the remaining $20,000. This is what we call a challenge grant because we're challenging you to come up with the remaining of the money. And then finally, we have what's known as in-kind support or pro bono services that you can use as part of the grant. Okay, let's talk now about the different types of grantors. Let's talk now about grantors. And grantors are the folks that actually give you the money. These are the people that you want to know. They are the folks that fund your program. One type of grantor is an individual. Okay, that is you or me giving funds to somebody because we believe in what they're doing. The other types of funders is family and community foundation. A family foundation is a foundation in which the members that lead that foundation are biologically connected, like, for example, the Gates Foundation. Him and his wife runs that foundation. So a family foundation means those individuals that actually are biologically connected. Then we have what's known as a community foundation. And a community foundation normally gives in areas that are within their boundaries. For example, the Hillsborough County Children is an example of an entity that provides money. However, because they fund programs only in Hillsborough County, you can only submit a proposal to them and get funded if your program is within Hillsborough County, hence Community Foundation. The next type of foundation is what's known as a corporate foundation. A corporate foundation can be anybody, can be any entity from Target to BP to McDonald's. These are foundations, corporate foundations. What you probably didn't know is that by law, foundations are required to give a percent of their net profits to nonprofits, 501c3, in order to maintain their status as a foundation. The next type of grantor is what's known as a federated corporation, like the United Way. And then finally, government funds. By far, the hardest funds that you can get are government grants. Wow, by now you're probably saying to yourself, this is a lot of information, and you're right. But then too, you want to go after the money. And if you want to go after the money, you have to play by their rules. Okay? Let's then move into the next section, and I'm going to make this as painless as possible. But at the end of the day, it's about getting the money. Okay, the next section, we want to talk about where do you go to find the money. And as you can see from the slide that you're looking at, I highlighted two specific entities that I want you to look at in terms of going after money. Although you can get any of the ones that's on the slide. The first is the Foundation Center. The Foundation Center is important because if you want to go for a grant, you go online and you put in, for example, Tampa Bay. And the reason why you're putting in Tampa Bay is because you want the Foundation Center software to only search for those folks that are going to fund in Tampa Bay. Then you're going to put down youth, because you're letting the Foundation Center know we're only interested in programs that provide youth, monies for youth. Now, you could say a senior program, a health program, a housing program, but you want to definitely put in the subject of what the grant is all about. And then finally, you want to tell us the software how much money you're looking for at the very least, and you will put in 100,000. So let's go back, because there was a lot of information. you put in Tampa Bay, you put in youth, and then you put in $100,000. And then what's going to happen is that all those organizations that are providing grants for Tampa Bay, if you're in Tampa Bay, it could be New York, Chicago, all those organizations that's funding that geographic area will come up. And then the subject area that you're looking for money for example, youth housing will come up. And then finally, the amount of money, only those organizations that give $100,000 or more will come up. Now keep in mind, you might say, no, Mike, I want to put in for organizations that will give $10,000 or above. The bottom line is that you can put in how much money at the very least you're looking for and trying to get. And then the next one is what we call grants.gov, and this is used when you're trying to go for federal grants. Go to grants.gov, you register with them, and you tell them specifically the types of grant that you want to have emailed to you. For example, if you want to look at only youth programs, then that information related to youth programs will come back. The reason why you want to specify what you're looking for, because if you don't, you can get in any given day in your email 100 emails from grants.gov, and it might be nuclear weapon, tanks, or whatever the case might be that the federal government needs. That's why you want to specify youth, housing, or whatever the case might be. Okay, now let's talk about steps to increase your chances of getting that grant. First, you should read the grant, the guidelines. You should contact a person that received the grant last year. You should contact a person that did the evaluation for that grant last year, and you should contact the program officer. Again, you can get all this information from the Foundation Center. Now, the Foundation Center normally charges a fee. I think it's like $179 a month. Most of us don't have that type of money. So, you can go to your local library to access the Foundation Center online for free of charge. Wow, are you still here? Okay, that means you really, really want it. Now, let's talk about the different components of a grant. The first component is the cover letter, the summary, the narrative, the organizational capacity, the budget, and the next section talks about support. Okay, again, the full proposal, the cover letter, the summary, and the narrative. Normally notice that the narrative consists of 4 parts: the needs statement, the goals and objectives, the methods section, and evaluation. And again, organizational capacity, the budget, and supporting materials. You have to make sure that you have identified the amount of money that you want. Make sure the executive director or the board chairperson signs off on it. Make sure you briefly talk about your mission of your organization, and it's very important that you put down the contact information related to who should be contacted related to the grant itself. Notice that in addition to writing grants, I also do grants evaluation. The reason why we tend to reject so many grants related to the cover letter is that an organization might say, for example, we are submitting a proposal for $100,000. And we initially put out our proposal for a maximum of $80,000. Well, you asked me for $100,000 and we only say $80,000 that we're going to submit to. We're going to throw that proposal away because you're not paying attention. The other thing you need to be careful about at the cover letter stage, make sure the appropriate person signs that document, because if they don't, it's not legal. Okay, the next section we're going to be talking about is the summary. And as you know, the summary is when you, in a nutshell, talks about everything that the proposal is all about. What does the summary consist of? Well, you want to have a statement of the problem. You want to give a brief explanation of the program and project and how it plans to deal with the problem. You want to make sure, let me emphasize this, you want to make sure that your goals and your objectives links with the funder's goals and objectives. And then you want to give a description of how the program will represent a unique response to the problem. And finally, that budget. You want to put in the summary the total budget and amount that you are requesting. Okay. The first part of the narrative is a statement of the problem. And what do we mean by a statement of the problem? What we mean is that what conditions do you want to change? In other words, what's wrong? So, in the statement of the problem, you want to establish the importance and significance of the problem. You want to demonstrate that your problem is feasible and manageable. For example, in the statement of the problem, you shouldn't put something, well, you know, this thing is so bad, I don't know what can happen. You need to say it's bad, but we have the solution to the problem. The other thing you want to do is to state the problem and outputs in terms of human needs and social benefits. If there is no problem, remember, if there is no problem, there is no money. Repeat it. If there is no problem, there is no money. You need to be able to articulate what the problem is, and you should use both quantitative and qualitative research. And let's talk about that. Quantitative and qualitative research. What is it? Quantitative research is collecting, analyzing, and interpreting data by observing what a person do or say. Quantitative research is research referred to in terms of the count and measurement of things. Quantitative research is subjective and qualitative research is subjective. Let's talk about subjective related to qualitative research. Well, you can do a focus group. You can get people together and ask them what is their opinion on something. That would be quantitative or subjective, getting their opinion on something. Or we could use what's known as qualitative research in terms of the numbers. For example, if we want to say the problem that we're trying to solve is problems related to homelessness, then we need to go to an authoritative site to show what the problem is. For example, that site might say that of the population of people that live in Florida, 10% of their population is unemployed or homeless. And the different places that you can go to do the research is citydata.com and the Census Bureau, which is FactFinders 2. And now, let's move to goals and objectives. Goals and objectives. We talked about the problem, and the problem is what's wrong. The goals and objectives begin to talk about how do you plan to solve the problem. A goal is really about the final impact or outcome that you plan to bring about. For example, if you're saying that the problem is homelessness, and that's what the problem is, too many people in America are without homes, then your goal would be, for example, to reduce homelessness. And your objectives, which is the next part of this, talks about how do you plan to reach your goal. Your objectives should specify the outcome of your project and the end product and the end products of that product. So, what do we mean? If you're saying the goal is to reduce homelessness, then your objections should talk about how do you plan to do it. We plan to create a program that provides housing for people that are homeless. We plan to provide affordable homes for people that are homeless. The bottom line is that your objectives should stem from your goal, and it should talk specifically about how you plan to bring about your goals. Your goals should be specific, immediate, measurable, practical, logical, and you should be able to evaluate. In other words, if you haven't picked up on it, it should be simple. And there are different types of objectives: behavioral, performance, process objective, and product objective. And all of this leads up to what we call the logic model. And the logic model is the next segment we want to talk about. Most funders are requiring that you do a logic model in order to be part of your grant. And what is a logic model and what does it consist of? Well, a logic model is basically a summary of all the things that you plan to do in your grant proposal. And let's talk about the different components of a logic model. The first component is resources. Resources are those things that you need in order to bring your plan about. Staff, a building, computers, all those things are necessary are related to the resources. The next component is activities. And activities are the things you need to do in order to bring about the end product of your proposal. For example, if you're doing something on homelessness, and your activity will be to recruit homeless people, to build homes. Those are the activities, the things you plan to do in order to reach your goals and your objectives. And the next thing that we want to talk about is outputs. And outputs, I tell you, sometimes they make these things so complex. Guess what, folks? Outputs are no more than numbers. How many? And then the next section is outcomes. Outcomes are the benefits that you plan to show that you've been able to accomplish. Let's go back to the homeless side of the table again, in which you want to reduce homelessness. One of your outcomes should be that you have, at the end of the day, found that person a house to live in. If, for example, your goals and your objective is to reduce unemployment, then your outcome should be that you actually found a job for that person. And then from your outcomes, you should move to your impact. The impact is 7 years down the line, how is this going to benefit that person or society? If, for example, the outcome was to get a person a job, the impact is that, hey, now this person is a taxpayer, they have high self-esteem, they're a productive member of society. That deals with impact. In the case of the homeless person, the impact would be now this person has some place to live, the person has a sense of self-esteem about themselves, and now that they have a house, they can be more productive member of society. Let's move to the next section. Well, the next section is the method section, or in some cases, the work plan. Let's talk about what is the method or work plan. The method section describes your project activities in detail, indicating how your objectives will be accomplished. It includes the following. It should have a detailed description of what occurs from the time your project begins to the time that your project is completed. Now, let's move to the next section, which is evaluation. Evaluation. Evaluation is what we use to show that we're doing what we say we're going to do. There are different types of evaluations. You have your goal-based evaluation, in which we're not concerned about, but you can read it. You have your process-based evaluation, in which we're not concerned about, but you can read it. And then we have what's known as outcome-based evaluation, which is used by most nonprofits. You have to be able to show that you're able to measure what you say your outcomes are going to be. For each outcome, specify what observable measures or indicators you would suggest for achieving that key outcome with your client. Let's give it an example. You have an educational program in which you want to get kids from one grade level to another grade level. Well, the tools that you want to use is a pre-test and a post-test to show where the kid was and where the person is now. Unemployment. The key thing you want to use is to show that the person didn't have a job, and then now that the person does have a job. If, for example, you want to give people soft skills in order for them to help get them their job. A resume, for example. You would show how they did their first resume, and then when you help them, how the resume actually was done to be professional. So, evaluation skills mean you go from the baseline to what, if anything, you've done to prove that person's quality of life. Next section, the conclusion. So, the conclusion. The conclusion is what you want to basically, in a nutshell, in one paragraph, just like the summary, is to bring back the focus of the main grant. Now, in most cases, funders do not want you to use emotions. However, in the conclusion, you can use emotions. For example, let's say you're doing homelessness as a program that you want to get funded. And you could say, the reason why I do what I do is because I was homeless before and I know what it feels. Or you could say, the reason why I do what I do is because I know someone who was homeless and that's why I do what I do. Most grants are basically the same. And you're going against all kinds of other folks that want the same amount of money that you are trying to get. That's why, at the end of the day, in order to spend that in your direction, get emotional. Talk about why you do what you do. Now, you still here? Let's move on to the next section. In the next section, we want to talk about organizational capacity. And what do we mean? We mean the why, the who, the what, and the how much about that organization. How long have you been around? And do you have the capacity to actually do this particular grant? That's when we have a conversation about organizational infrastructure. And what do we mean? We mean, do you have policies and procedures in place? Do you have staff on board? Do you have physical control? And when we talk about physical control, we mean, is an audit being done on your organization? Are you doing your profit and loss statement, your balance sheets, and all that information like that to let people know you got control over your finance? The next component to organizational infrastructure is what we call the SWOT test. And let's talk about what the SWOT test is. It's not the team that comes through your door, not that SWOT. Okay, let's move on. Okay, let's talk about the SWOT test, the SWOT analysis, and what it consists of. It consists of the strengths, the weaknesses, the opportunities, and the threats that your organization might have to face. Most grant writers will not talk about putting this in your proposal. And that's because most top 20, the top 20 businesses in the United States use this right here to model to make sure their company is doing what it's supposed to do. Nonprofits should do the same thing. You should, even though the funder might not ask for it, submit this as an attachment to your proposal, again, to increase your opportunity of getting that grant. Talk about the strengths, the weaknesses, the threats and the opportunities related to your organization. You should have values, your mission statement, your vision statement, your strategies, and your tactics. You must have all of these different components as part of your organization in order to be considered a strong organization. A lot of the organizations that I provide service for, when you ask them what their mission is, they don't know, because they're so about doing the job. It is so critical that you know your mission and vision by heart. If Bill Gates was to walk up to you in the elevator, for example, and they say, well, you know what? I'm looking for a nonprofit to give some money to. What's your mission? What's your vision? If he have to refer to a card for that, you're not going to get that money. All right, we're almost finished, folks. Let's now move to the next section. The introduction. The introduction is basically a credible statement about your organization, who you are and what you do. In most cases, it's anywhere from a page to a page and a half. And in most cases, only foundations require a letter of introduction. Government agencies by far do not require a letter of introduction. This is when you sell yourself. This is when you talk about what's so unique about you as opposed to other organizations. Next, future funding. Let's talk about future funding, sustainability. How do you plan to continue your operation after that grant is used? Here's a model that I put together. It's called social entrepreneurship. It talks about how do you plan to bring in resources. Anywhere from grants, in which most nonprofits do, to fee for services, to development fees, to consulting fees, to owning your own business. Did you know that the federal government has a grant that comes out every year under economic development in which they will give money to a nonprofit to start its own business? And the idea behind giving money to a nonprofit to start their own business is that if we give you this money this year, don't come back next year, because now you have a way of bringing in money to your organization. It's called earned income. Social entrepreneurship is the latest spin in terms of nonprofits and sustainability. Let's move now to the next section. Okay, let's now talk about the budget. There are two types of costs associated with the budget. One is direct costs, that is staff that works directly to run the program, secretary, and those other entities that work directly to make sure the program is going to run like it's supposed to run. And then we have what's known as indirect costs. Indirect costs is those costs associated with making sure the operation of the organization is covered. For example, a lawyer, to make sure that if you're being sued, you got somebody to represent you. Now that lawyer doesn't provide direct services to the program, but it does provide direct service to the organization itself. Or an accountant, for example, that would be indirect costs. That person provides the financial means for the organization to run, to make sure it's sound. in that particular respect. The other costs associated with the organization could be in-kind, pro bono service, or cost sharing. Let's move now to the next section. Okay, we're almost there, folks. And I hope this has really been a learning lesson for you. It's all about getting the money, and you have to know how to get the money. So, whenever you get a grant, you have to make sure that on your materials that you produce, be it flyers, pamphlets, a web page, or press release, that you acknowledge who you received a grant from. For example, if you receive a grant from Bank of America, somewhere on your materials that you're getting out there to the public should be sponsored by the Bank of America. If you receive money from Chase Bank, somewhere on your written materials or electronic material should be sponsored by Chase Bank. Let's move now to the next section. Now, at the back of the grant, you should have these items as what's known as attachment. A list of your board of directors, organizational fiscal report. You know, we talk about the audit and the budget for the year, both operational budget as well as projected budget. Your past history stories that you want to put down, and letters of support. And your articles of incorporation and your bylaws as well. Moving to the next section. Now, let's talk about the appearance. It is critical that you follow direction. If an organization asks you to number the proposal and you don't number the proposal, it's going to be thrown in the trash. If an organization asks you to submit your proposal and Time Roman 12 fonts, and you submit that proposal in cursive, it is going in the trash. Sometimes, folks, it's the little things that get you to lose that grant. Moving now to the next section. The next section talks about letters of support or letters of intent. A lot of times, you can write to an organization without a full proposal, but with a small letter asking for a donation. In a lot of cases, you can get, for example, if you need a car or a truck, you can write to one of your car dealers and write to them and ask for a letter of donation for a truck or something of that nature. And a lot of organizations ask you to submit a letter of inquiry even before you submit a full proposal. This is the different components of the letter of inquiry. You have your cover sheet, which is up to 2 pages, your narrative, and then your financials. Now, let's move now to the next section. And thank you for attending today's class. This is a list of the different organizations that we have provided service for, some type of service. It is, again, a partial list of the different organizations. Guess what? This is the end of the overview class on grant writing. So I truly hope that this has been something that has been informative, and you can use this towards your productivity. In addition, I want to talk about some of the other services that we do provide. We do provide in-depth grant writing. This is for those individuals that are interested in becoming a grant writer. Be a grant writer for your organization or a grant writer for yourself. Grant writers can make anywhere from $30 to $200 an hour, depending upon their level of experience. Making a case for support is another program and workshop that we offer. Making a case for support is very important because you have to show the funder why they should fund you. Keep in mind that's 1 point something million nonprofits out there. So the field in terms of going after grants is very competitive. The other workshop that we offer and is called How to Put Together a Professional Business Plan. In addition to that, how to put together a strategic 5-year strategic plan for the organization. How to do a theory of change. It's very important that you understand this tool when you go to write for grants. Logic model. How to put together a logic model. In addition to that, how to do program development. So this list is only some of the different training and services that we offer. We're very affordable. And I think what's most important that we use what's known as a new school, next generation approach to working with nonprofits. Feel free to contact us at the Center for Nonprofit and Community Development feel free to contact us at the Center for Nonprofit and Community at gmail.com, or you can find us on the web. If you're looking for us on the web, that's the Center for Nonprofit and Community Development.com. To date, we have provided services to over 25 up to 38 nonprofits from around the country. Not only nonprofits, businesses, individuals, government agencies, faith-based. I hope this video has been of some service to you. We think that the professional workshops that we offer put you in a position to make sure your organization is sustainable, not only from an organizational structure perspective, but also more importantly, from a funder's perspective, that you are financially sustainable. Those are some of the services that we provide. So our next workshop coming up is I think we're going to do a workshop on board training. Then we're going to do a workshop on financial management. Looking forward to hearing from you. Connect with us on Facebook or Instagram, all those different social media.